I'd like to call the February 22nd, 2018 regular meeting of the Piqua Board of Education meeting to order. Mr. Hiddle, please call the roll.
Mr. Patrizio.
Here.
Mr. Ford.
Here.
Mrs. McMacken.
Here.
Mr. Bostic.
Here.
Mr. Height.
Here. Would you please stand and join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You've had an opportunity to review the minutes from the January 25th regular meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? If not, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. You have in front of you the agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda? Okay, can we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried. Upper Valley Career Center reports, very brief. We haven't met. We'll meet on Monday. Legislative report, Mr. Patrizio.
Thank you, Mr. Height. I want to preface my remarks by stating that what I'm going to say is my opinion and not the opinion of the Piqua City School Board. I'm making this statement because it is time for people like myself to start voicing their concerns about assault rifles and semi-automatic gun ownership. During the past year, we've seen two major shootings, one in Florida and one in Las Vegas. The Florida shooting was in a school and 17 people were killed by a person with obvious issues in an AR-15. In Las Vegas, 58 people were killed. I know of at least 2 people from Piqua that were at the Las Vegas shooting. Therefore, don't think that these issues will not affect people from Piqua. In Florida, the deranged individual shot over 100 rounds in 3 minutes with an AR-15 semi-automatic weapon. In Las Vegas, the deranged individual shot over 1,100 rounds in 10 minutes, 490 yards from his targets. Today, the head of the National Rifle Association, Wayne LaPierre, stated the following: Democrats are exploiting deaths in an effort to destroy the Second Amendment. Socialism is a movement that loves a smear. They want to sweep under the carpet the failure of school security. If they seize power, our freedoms could be lost and our country will be forever changed. The first to go will be the Second Amendment. What ludicrous statements. Most Americans, including myself, whether a Democrat, Republican, or Independent, and not a socialist, do not have a problem with people owning guns, ordinary rifles, and pistols for their protection or hunting or other enjoyment. I'm personally not opposed to people registered as collectors with vigorous background checks having semi-automatic and automatic weapons. What I am opposed to, and many other people as well, is the proliferation of assault rifles and semi-automatic weapons with no other purpose but to kill mass amounts of people, being available for purchase to the general public. How many mass shootings does it take for so-called leaders to act? I thought when 20 first graders were killed by a lunatic in 2012, Congress and state legislatures would have the guts to enact laws that could prevent further killings. It did not happen. Instead, the NRA pumped in $5 million into 2016 alone into lobbying efforts and campaign contributions for their supporters, always opposing any common sense legislation to restrict gun ownership by claiming people like me will take their Second Amendment rights away, a claim that is completely false and is made to inflict fear into many. To date, the United States Congress has passed nothing, and neither has the legislature of the state of Ohio. The NRA's leader's solution to the problem is that schools need to address school security. Are you kidding me? First of all, since I graduated in 1984, school security has changed substantially. Without making our schools like prisons or airports with metal detectors and security guards, I don't know what is expected to secure the schools. The administration and Board of Education of this district continually address security issues, and even prior to this latest incident, we looked at further modifying our buildings this summer to make them even more secure. When there's a lunatic with a semi-automatic rifle or an automatic weapon wanting to kill people, it will happen. Look at Las Vegas. In Vegas, police officers and security officers with guns were not far from the event and could not stop the lunatic with the gun until he inflicted substantial casualties. 2 senators from Ohio have asked the state legislature to ban certain weapons. Unfortunately, I do not believe our legislators have the guts to pass this bill or any other bill that might have a chance at preventing the tragedies that have occurred. I ask the people who are tired of these killings to contact their legislators and ask them to adopt some common sense laws regarding gun ownership. I also ask if you've contributed to the NRA in the past that you stop donating to it until the organization also adopts a common sense approach towards gun ownership. Thank you for your time. Again, this is my own personal belief and is not a statement of the Board of Education. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving along. I have nothing about hearing of the public on agenda items, so we'll move along to the Treasurer's Report. Mr. Hiddle.
Good evening. The audit has been finished, complete, and has now been made public on the Auditor State's website, so it is out there for people to review. We received notification this week that the district received the Auditor State's Award with distinction, and that doesn't get issued out to everyone. It is a select group of districts that do that. So they'll be coming to the meeting in April with that award. So just
I think you're being a little humble. Only 5 districts in the state of Ohio received that award, so I think people in Piqua need to be aware that our Treasurer's Office is doing their job very well.
Thank you. I was trying not to toot my horn too loud, but it is a good thing. And I don't do it on my own, obviously, and I told my staff that, and obviously all of our staff has a role to play in that. So it's definitely not just because Jeremy's sitting there. It's literally because people know, and we're communicating out what the rules and regulations are and making sure we're following them. So I'm happy that we were able to make that happen this year. So next thing is tax had come in and the settlement for that, and overall our income tax for the year is up about $169,000 on the year versus last year from where we're at this point. In total collections in January, we're at just a little shy of $1.4 million on the income tax. So again, one of those things that are in place that does help us not have to go back to the taxpayers for additional revenue is having an income tax, because it does sort of grow as the economy grows and that kind of thing. So it has helped us not have to continue to ask for additional funds. And the other thing that we received just recently is our casino tax revenue, and this is one of those fun things that the state of Ohio told everyone that, well, the casino tax is going to help pay for school districts, and not that we're complaining about receiving funding, but it boils down to about $25 2 times a year per student. The settlement was $86,528 this last go around. So just as that, it's a little bit up from when it first got implemented. So I guess more people are gambling, but it's definitely not paying for school funding by any means. And I think initially that's sort of how it was going. This is going to be this big windfall to districts, but it's minimal. But we'll take every penny we can get, obviously. So not complaining, just stating the way it turned out. So monthly fiscal reports.
Do we have any questions?
Any questions on those? And that's all I have.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the Treasurer's reports, the Treasurer's agenda?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Mr. Hiddle, please call the roll.
Mrs. McMacken. Aye. Mr. Bostic.
Aye.
Mr. Ford.
Aye.
Mr. Patrizio.
Yes.
Mr. Height.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, Superintendent's Report.
Thank you. This month's meeting is hosted at Washington Primary School, and with us tonight we have Assistant Principal Shannon Pence, who would like to talk a little bit about some of the academic programs and progress they're making this year.
Good evening, everybody. Mrs. Troglin extends her apologies for not being here this evening. She had a family matter to attend to. But I just kind of wanted to review some of the goals that we talked about at the beginning of the year, the last time we had the meeting here, that we're working on this year. Our first goal is, as a district, we're working on that Tier 1 instruction and improving that quality instruction for all students in the classroom. Our teachers have been meeting with our literacy coaches, who are fabulous. They have a great love of literature, and they want to share that with everyone. During their TBT meetings, they're learning more about this program. They've also had one-on-one meetings with them to help plan lessons that help engage the students in the literature deeper. We are also collecting data during our walkthroughs about how this is going and how teachers are implementing this in their classroom, and have discussed that at our staff meetings and with our BLT team. We have identified some weaknesses, areas that we're working on, and we've developed some plans to address those areas on that Tier 1. But a big focus of that is our literacy, our reading and writing, and what we're doing. So getting teachers to share and look at other teachers and how they do things has been a great thing that we've been working on with our teacher teams. We've also visited another school nearby to kind of see different ways to improve that student achievement and growth. As part of that, our second goal was really to focus on our TBT meetings with our teachers and improve that 5-step process of looking at the data. One thing that the district did provide this year for our 2nd and 3rd graders is a program called ProCore, and we're learning more about that. This is an online system that allows the students to take tests based on the standards, and it's got a couple of purposes. One is for our teacher student growth measure that they earn based on how much the students grew, and they'll take that assessment 3 times a year. We just recently finished the winter benchmark round to see how the students were going, and then our teachers will go back and look over that with a fine-tooth comb and find out which ones are meeting the mark, which students are not meeting the mark, which standards they're succeeding in, which standards they're not, and how they can improve their instruction, and especially their small group work with students who need different skills. So we're beginning to find that a very valuable resource. It opens up a lot of communication with teachers and their teams. It allows the teachers to go in and select a specific standard they're working on, and we do have license for ProCore in reading, math, science, and social studies. And so they'll pick a specific standard. They can do like a pre-test, see where their kids fall, plan their instruction, plan some small group work, how they're going to do it, and then do a post-test at the end and see how they grew in that standard. So it's really being very valuable for also helping narrow in our focus on standards-based instruction, which has been a big thing we talk about a lot, is what is the standard, what does it look like, what's the depth of it. So that has been a great tool for our 2nd and 3rd grade teachers as well. We are also, as part of that, looking at improving our RTI process. RTI stands for Response to Intervention, and it's our way of really getting down to the nitty-gritty with students who are struggling academically or even behaviorally. And so we've kind of adopted a new process here this year. We've trained some of our leaders. We have 2 teacher leaders on the RTI team, taken them to a training and trained them, and so we're changing that process. And the big change in that process this year is really involving the student and the parent in the process. So the teachers will, talk with each other, being the title teacher, the special ed teacher, the teachers in that grade level, and say, why is the student struggling? They'll do some different data keeping to really hone that into what is that core problem. Where do we need to start? I mean, the kid may have a lot of areas that they're dealing with and they're having trouble with, but what's the one thing we want to start on? So they'll really drill that down, put in some plans in place, maybe some one-on-one or some small group or some different things, implement it and see how they grow. And then we also bring the student in and the parent in. And so the teacher will share, here's what I think we can do in the classroom to improve how you're reading or whatever the issue is. Then the student will also give some suggestions for the classroom and themselves and the parent as well. So this process really exemplifies and really tries to put emphasis on this as a team effort. We need the parent, the student, and all the teachers involved really knowing what our goal is, and then a way to measure that, because we know that the best motivation is seeing progress, and so looking at that, how are we progressing? So that's another thing we've worked really hard on to begin to improve that process. Kind of our third goal then is our school culture and working on PBIS. So we started that last year. We've improved it this year. Some of the things we've done this year we think have helped is we've gotten large signs printed in all of our areas, like the blue signs over there, that really give you that visual of what our expectations are when you're in that location. So that's been exciting to see. We have got all of our students in tribes so that we have some activities to get vertical alignment, grade levels together. So each teacher, each each group of student is in our tribe. Those are our pictures over there on the wall of the eagle, the bear, the fox, the deer, the coyote, and the hawk. And so we have different contests when they're bringing in things for like the canned goods for Salvation Army or some other fundraising events to see which tribe comes out on top and do some small rewards. And then some of our tribes get together to know each other like buddies. They'll do buddy reading and some different walking activities. So we're trying to get more of a cross-grade level just interaction and building, the teachers getting to know each other as well as the students. Improving our instruction with what our standard expectations are. We have booster sessions in January for teaching the kids and practicing them. And then rewarding them as well. We have our pride cards where kids can earn punches for good behavior, and quarterly they'll come to an event. So this last quarter was winter, so we did indoor board games and played bingo and all kinds of fun games like that. So we have about 400 students that are finishing that whole punch card for their behaviors. And also we're doing the Student of the Month. So every month we have 24 students that we honor for showing respect, responsibility, and kindness, and they get a sign to put in their yard and a letter to their parents. And some pluses like that. So we're really happy with where we're going here. We got some more ideas to build upon and involve the community more, but we're really happy. And March is going to be an exciting month for us. We're going to do a lot of reading. Right to Read Week. We have a very special author visit coming in to kick that off, and then some family nights coming in. So we're really trying to bring families in and include them. So that's kind of how we're working towards our main goals this year.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? Sounds like you're busy.
I'm busy. It's fun.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Spence. Next, I'd like to talk a little bit about kindergarten registration. That process has begun, and it's really important that we get a lot of good information out there, because getting those students registered early allows us to start that communication process with our parents. So Mindy Gerhardt's going to come forward and talk a little bit about how that process has begun and share some information out there to some of the parents and community members to help them with us getting them registered.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson, and good evening. And like Dwayne said, it is that time, February, for kindergarten registration screening. Any child in the city of Piqua School System District who is 5 on or before August 1st is ready for kindergarten for next year. We have dates already out to the public. The first date is Saturday, April 7th. That's from 8:30 in the morning. Last appointment will be at 12:30, and it'll be here at Washington. And then Spring Creek will have their kindergarten screening registration appointment on Saturday, April 14th, the same times from 8:30 to 12:30. And Tuesday, April 17th, we have another one here at Washington from 4:15 to 6:15. And that Thursday, April 19th, at Spring Creek from 4:15 to 6:15. Hopefully we get a lot of students in during those times, because we do have 2 more dates in June. But our goal is to get as many students registered and screened during our 4 April sessions. This afternoon I looked, and I think we're at 81 students who have signed up so far for this year, and it's only been out there for about 2 weeks. We've made this public, so that's pretty good. Any parent who has a child who will be 5 by August 1st, make sure you call Spring Creek or Washington to set up that appointment. Secretaries are ready, and we'll take down a lot of information and give you information as well on the whole screening process. Parents will come during those days, and they'll actually be in the Commons here or at Spring Creek, and they will work on the online registration forms. They will also learn about busing and lunch forms and all the fun school stuff during that time. There'll also be a time for them to turn in forms that need to be turned in by the adults anytime you register a child for Piqua schools. That includes a photo ID, proof of residency, child's birth certificate, any custody papers, those fun things as well, and any physical examination forms that a child may have, or immunization as well. Students who will be coming in, they're going to undergo some academic screening on basic knowledge and skills that they have in letter recognition and number recognition, basic letter sounds, counting skills, word recognition, any of those pre-reading skills that kids need, and math skills as well. And they will also, students will undergo vision and hearing screening. They'll do some fine and gross motor screening as well. Get a quick speech screen, and the dental clinic is going to come again and just kind of, as we say, count teeth. They're going to look at the teeth and see if there's any noticeable cavities that parents need to be aware of. Any questions then about kindergarten screening and registration?
Sounds like you covered it.
All right. Building principals and all the kindergarten teachers have met. They've already started to go over the academic screener. Everything looks like we're ready to go.
Thank you so much. In a moment, we will be recommending that the board approve Piqua joining 9 other school districts to withdraw from the GWOC League, the Greater Western Ohio Conference. We are requesting to withdraw from them to form a new league. We have always appreciated the relationships that we've had with these other school districts. It's been since 2001 since the league started. Great competitions, but the league has grown so big. Lots of challenges have kind of evolved over time, so over the last couple of months, superintendents as well as the athletic directors and principals have gotten together to start talking about some of those challenges and differences that we're facing. So some of the reasons why Piqua would like to pull out with some of the other 9 districts, it's going to be based on student enrollment. We've been competing against some districts that are really quite larger than we are, so competition base has been a lot, a big variance between us and some of the bigger school districts. A smaller footprint, so we're looking at trying to not have to travel so far. We have some junior high teams, even high school teams that are getting back pretty late from having to go pretty far down the I-75 corridor, so giving us that smaller footprint and actually helping to save some money from all the travel time that we were spending for some of those districts way down south. Similar sports offerings, some of the larger districts are looking to add some sports programs to meet the needs of the number of students that they have to serve. Districts our size are not looking at doing that. It's already sometimes challenging to fulfill some of the teams with student numbers, and adding sports to our programs right now would make it even more challenging and not a good situation for us. And finally, maintaining historical rivals. So, many of the districts that are staying in the Northern League, and I'll read those off here shortly, are school districts we've played as far back as 1924. And we all know and value some of the great rivalries with Troy and Sydney, and we've played other teams like Greenville and so on. So it'll be great to be able to form that league back and get back to more comparable competitions and make it more kind of even keel. So any questions about GWOC that I could answer before we go into that approval?
Basically, you're going back to the old league as it stood originally.
Miami Valley League, basically.
What are they going to call this league?
There's no name yet. What will happen is if we approve, obviously all of our 10 schools would have to approve their boards, and as well as the other 10. Once that process happens, then some leagues can form and commissioners can be chosen and all those kinds of things. So as of right now, we're still GWOC, but until we take that vote, we would then withdraw. We would submit that letter along with the other districts, and then we would move through the process.
You might explain to what's the time frame for all this to happen? When would the change take place?
Normally the bylaws would indicate 2 years, but I think because everybody's amicable with it, we've had such great conversations, I think everybody's more interested in moving a little bit of a faster pace. So some schedules have been already created for next year, so those will be fulfilled. And then I believe everyone would pretty much agree with after next year we could go ahead and separate the GWOC.
Is there any other questions? Okay, thank you.
All right, that's all I had. Want me to go on to the recommendations?
Yeah,
okay.
Go ahead.
So the first recommendation is to recommend board approval for the enrollment of Paula Zoe from Germany at Piqua High School for the 2018-2019 school year as a foreign exchange student through the ASSE International Student Exchange Program. So I didn't really have anything else to say. You don't have to say anything, but you're here. If you would like to say anything, you're welcome to come up. Again, you don't have to, but you're welcome to share what you would like.
First of all, thank you for your time. I just wanted to come here and request that she be respectfully accepted. We have already sent off the request, the student approval letter that needs to be signed by Mr. Messick so that she can be approved, and that actually will conclude her application process. The Hawks are here this evening. They have already been vetted by ASSE and the State Department. They've already gone through all the background checks, gone through all the different application process and visitation process that we have to go through to get them accepted. So a little bit about Paula. She will be coming in as a sophomore. I know the family has already started preparing her room and getting all that set up. She loves amusement parks, especially roller coasters, and likes volleyball, so I think she will fit in really well. Her English scores are at the top. We have 5 levels. As ASSC does do testing, and we have 5 levels, 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest, and she is definitely in level 5. So I think as far as being able to integrate in the school, she'll be fine. She'll only be required to take 3 classes are required for her to take: English, government, and history. The other classes are her choice. I always tend to ask them to do something that you wouldn't get to do back in your own country. I myself am the area rep, so I'll be talking to the principal, talking to the counselor at least, twice a year, and always make myself available if there are any questions or concerns that, from the ASSC perspective, that I will be your contact. I'll also be contacting the family and Paula once a month to check in on them, to see how things are going. It's always good to be proactive and stay ahead of any problems, because we are bringing one child to a whole family, and sometimes, teenagers, there could be misunderstandings or just need help in one way or the other. I'll also be conducting activities with her and my other exchange students, because I cover Piqua, Troy, Sydney, Fairlawn area, and to help enrich their stay, their cultural stay. So we'll be doing some American things. And I'm here to see if you guys had any questions or any questions from the audience.
When is Paula coming?
She arrives in August and will be here through the whole entire school year, and return shortly after school is out, about 10 days or so after school is out.
Is this your first exchange student? Yeah, yeah. My family did too, several. Yeah. In fact, our first was from Germany. So.
Oh, yeah.
We do have an interesting German tie, because if you remember, the Career Center sent several students to Germany last year, and I believe there's some German students coming back here to us again this year. So there's already a little bit of a tie.
Oh. Okay, good.
Any questions on the board? No? Well, thank you very much for sharing all that.
All right, thank
And
you.
Congratulations for you guys. Recommend board approval for the attached overnight field trip for the Model UN Conference at the Indianapolis Model United Nations from March 15th to the 16th of 2018. And this allows our students to just kind of get into some of those worldwide simulations and to really learn those skills that they would go through at the Model United Nations that you would normally hear about in the news. And finally, we talked about this a little earlier. Recommend board approval for the Piqua City School District to leave the Greater Western Ohio Conference, or GWOC, League effective at the conclusion of the 2019-2020 school year or sooner, if by mutual agreement, and to form a new conference with the following school districts: Vandalia Butler, Fairborn, Greenville, Piqua, Sydney, Mad River, Stebbins, Tippecanoe, Troy, West Carrollton, and Xenia. That's it.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the superintendent's agenda?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Mr. Hiddle, please call the roll on this one.
Mr. Height.
Aye.
Mrs. McMacken.
Aye.
Mr. Patrizio.
Aye.
Mr. Ford.
Aye.
Mr. Bostic.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Personnel agenda, Mr. Lyons.
Very, very small personnel agenda this evening. I wanted to recognize a couple different people with retirements. Linda DeWeese, teacher here at Washington, a storied career, and we're very, very happy that she's gotten to this point in her career, and going to miss her for sure, as well as Susan DeBross, our parent mentor for the district, who works tirelessly to give our students with special needs some options that are not readily available. So thank you to both of them, and congratulations on their retirement as that approaches. And then, of course, as I always selflessly do, if anybody out there is interested in positions that we have available, specifically in the areas of transportation, custodial, those kinds of things, contact us at the board office. And if you're interested in volunteering with the district, simple as coming in, get a fingerprint done, and we can get you into the school supporting your students. So outside of that, I would ask for board approval of the personnel agenda as presented, unless anybody else has any questions on that.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the personnel agenda?
So moved.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, Mr. Hiddle, please call the roll.
Mr. Patrizio.
Aye.
Mr. Bostic.
Aye.
Mr. Ford.
Aye.
Mrs. McMacken.
Aye.
Mr. Height.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. There is no old business to bring to the board tonight. Just a little bit of new business. You want to explain the Neola updates?
Sure, just a few updates, mostly in technology, so we'll do a first read on those tonight before we would approve those at a second read. So no major changes, just a few quick upgrades. We involved our technology coordinator, Eric Heidenreich, in those conversations, and we feel like they're just good, quick updates. So.
Okay. Very good. I have nothing of hearing of the public on non-agenda items. And our next regular meeting is going to be Thursday, March 22nd at 6 p.m. And that meeting will be at Piqua Central Intermediate School. With that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. We are adjourned.